This is my vise that I had on my old welding bench, and I'm going to remount it on the new bench. But I want to make a couple of improvements to it first. This is a Babco. It's a pretty nice vise. They're made in Japan, but it's interesting. It's got Oakland, California on here with the zip code, which is Oakland's just north of me, about 45 miles. Yeah, it's well made. I got this, I think, at a yard sale, probably for around 20 bucks or so. If you come across one of these, this is a 135, which I think is a 3.5 inch. Yeah, I definitely grab one of these if you see them at a good price. They're well made. Yeah, so it's swivel base. You get your typical lock on this side. And then on this side, they've got a spot that's drilled and threaded for a lockdown bolt, which is nice. All right, well, here's what I want to work on. So overall, it's not bad. I mean, I need to clean it a little bit, but this is all machined flat on the bottom, and the swivel base, everything is machined, with the exception of the slot for the carriage bolt / locking bolt, and all it is a carriage bolt. I may replace that. But this is just as cast in here, and then the surface that the carriage bolt rides on is just the cast surface. So I just want to take a skim cut and dust that off so it's a little smoother operating. And then for the slot, we'll see. I might just skim that, or maybe just come in with a file. We'll see how we go. I need to make one of those Stefan Gottswinner holders. Okay, that's close enough for what we're doing. Okay, I don't want to touch the dial to try to re-zero it. It's very touchy. But we're within about 2,000, so I'm going to call it good. That bore is a little rough in there too, and it's the only machine surface I got to go on. Take another 3 thou. Didn't clean up 100%, but I think we're going to call it good. Okay, so the idea here is just to do just a super light dust off on both inside edges, This has got draft, so it's only going to be touching the top, and that's really the only place the carriage bolt touches anyways. You just mainly want to knock off any rough or high spots, not looking to actually, you know, put a machine surface on there. Just see if it touches anywhere. There's a little bit right there. I don't know how round this thing is. I mean, we dialed in off of the center hole. Yeah, there we go, yeah. So it's got some out around this run out. That's more than some right there. I think we're still okay. Quite a bit here. Let's see how much we're taking off. I think we're still alright. Definitely got some run out. Sweep around just to see how it's looking. See if we touch anywhere. Oh yeah, right there. Not bad. Just gonna go with it. Definitely not real true. We're going to be better than what we were. Okay. All right, that's all I want to do with that. We'll just smooth up the rest of it with a file. Yeah, that is way better already. I'm still going to do a little bit of filing. See if we can smooth this out a little bit more. That'll be much better. I'm just lining these up by eye. Just going to give them just a little bit of a spot face. I didn't clean these up all the way because I didn't want to have a big ridge out here on the outside edge. So just improved it a little bit. And then just when you think you're done, these mounting holes are just cast. And this one back here is way undersized. So I'm just going to run a 1/2 inch end mill through all of them just to clean them up. Okay, yeah, I had to skim that just a tad more off camera. Alright, made a few improvements to our fit and finish of the vise here. We spot drilled all the bolting locations and opened the holes up a little bit. Cleaned up this clamping surface, and I also put this on a lapping plate just real quick. Alright, so let's see how this fits now. One of the things I wanted to do was improve this. I did try taking a little bit off the shoulder, but this is some weird thread. It's 12 threads per inch, but the diameter, the major diameter, is not ½ inch. It's something weird. It's about 12.5 millimeters. It's not Whitworth. I checked. It's a 60-degree thread, so it's not Whitworth. It doesn't match up with anything metric. No idea what it is, so I don't want to mess this up. So we did improve that just a tiny bit, but we still have a little bit of clearance, but I'm just going to leave it. I cleaned up this carriage bolt a little bit. Okay, so it's got a little bit of wear on it. I'm going to match the wear pattern. Goes like that. And this track's nice and smooth now. No more dingleberries to hang up on. Made a locking bolt for this side, custom length. Okay, got Ethan the inspector here. He's going to check and see if our plate's going to work, our mounting plate for the vise. Make sure the holes line up and the bolts fit. How are we looking there?
Looks good.
Okay, see if you can get some bolts in there.
That one
Well, it looks like we got at least one that's going to fit.
Those two work. This one doesn't fit that good back here.
Uh-oh.
Nope, I was just screwing it in wrong.
Yeah, if you get them in there crooked, they're not going to go.
Yeah. Yep, they all fit.
Okay, let's run them all down. We're going to have to trim those to length, but we'll check them all first. Alright, so let's see how we're doing. Okay, looks like you got them all started. Alright, Ethan, I think that's going to work.
Yep.
Alright, now what are these other holes for? Any idea?
No.
Well,
oh, to screw it onto the table.
well, not exactly. These are just to hang accessories. And then this one hole is to store this bolt right there. So that when you're using the swivel, you don't lose that bolt. But then if you want to lock it down, it's right there. Yeah, there you go. Alright, okay, let's see how it looks on the bottom. Well, that's not bad. I thought we were going to have to trim these off, but I think we're just going to leave them. What do you think?
Yeah.
Alright, so then we got to figure out, we've got to weld on a post here, which will go to the other post that goes in the receiver hitch, okay? Alright, let's continue on. Okay, we've got our base plate all finished, ready to go. Double check that everything bolts up fine. And I've prepped some 2x2 steel tubing. Did a little profiling and weld prep here on the end. That's going to go on something like that. We got our holes drilled for the cross bolts. So, time to weld it up. Yeah, I know this is probably overkill, but this is the first project on the new welding table, and I wanted to try out some of the clamping system. I think it looks better to leave this overhanging a little bit, so that's how I'm doing it, rather than making this flush. And plus, it'll provide a surface for a weld bead. Okay, so I'm going to tack this all up before doing the final welding. Alright, let's just do a quick test fit before we go any farther. I think it's still a little bit on the warm side. Alright, so that's all the way in will be like that. And then our vise, I want this offset. Probably something like that. Is that going to stay? Okay. Okay, so I want to address a problem. It's not a huge problem, but it's more of an annoyance. So there's always clearance on these receivers. You know, normally it'd be a trailer hitch or whatever, to make it easy to get in and out. So you're going to have a little bit of wiggle. Now, front to back, not bad at all. Plus you got the weight of the vise and whatever you're working on, pushing down on that. So that's not bad. But look at side to side. So side to side, that's going to be very annoying, and I'm not going to be happy with it. So I've been looking at what to do. So the simplest thing would be just to weld on a nut so that you have a lock screw that you could run in and push in against the side and lock it in, okay? I'll probably do that. But the other thing I was looking at was just running some weld bead, top and bottom here, maybe a couple inches long, another one in the middle, and another one toward the end. Only just do one side, leave the other side factory, okay? And then put it in the milling machine and mill it so that I'll get a really nice fit, okay? So I think I'm going to do both of those. So I want to address that before we put this top plate on. Once I put this plate on here, then it's going to be a little more cumbersome to try to work on. But right now I can still put that in the milling machine and dress off these welds. So I think that's the plan. Let's get started. All right, I'm just going to run a bead here, here, all the way down here, and a couple back here. I'm going to do that off camera. All right, this weld bead is the highest, so I'm going to touch off on it, and then we'll just kind of skim across everything just to even it up before we start taking any kind of a serious cut. This is a Schar's 1-inch indexable end mill. There's your part number. It's got some pretty stout inserts, so hopefully they'll hold up okay to all these interrupted cuts here. Take about 15 thou just for an initial cleanup cut. Start on this end. No particular reason why, but all right, I'm going to take a few measurements just to make sure that we're cutting consistently one end versus the other end. All right, so you can see I've flipped our workpiece around and something weird is happening, and I think it's the tubing. You can see we're taking a lot more off of this end. That's why I flipped it around and ran it through again. Now my machine does have some wear, but it's not terrible. I think it's just that the tubing is not real consistent in dimension. I'm gonna measure it again and see if we can confirm that. Alrighty, so after doing some careful measuring, I've determined we have a bit of a banana situation going on. So it's probably because we welded on this side. It's going like this. Oh, there we go, like this, okay? Not horrible, but enough that we can see the difference as we're machining. So I've indicated this in. I've tried to even it out end to end. So we have this. So we have it equal amount of upness on each end. Okay. So I'm going to skim this again. We might even flip it over and do a little skim on the other side, depending on how this starts to clean up. Okay, I don't know if you guys can read these or not, but so here's what we got, and we're getting real close to a fit in our receiver. So we got 028 here, 040 here, 030 here, and we milled this in one setup. So this should be in a flat plane. So our difference is going to be on the bottom. So I'm going to flip this over and take about 0.08 off the other side to try to get rid of that high spot on the back side. Okay, we're starting to touch. Yeah, you can see that pattern. Kind of confirms that we have a banana situation. All right, I'm gonna go test fit it before we take any more off. All right, we're pretty close. I think once the cleanup reaches both ends, I think we're gonna be good. I'm gonna take 4/1000. All right, so this one, almost no wiggle, that fits really nice. This one, that's a little tight. Just a little bit of light file work and some deburring. Oh yeah, right there I can see. I'm sure it's the tube that has the issue. Yeah, it looks like something's dragging. But yeah, so I'm just going to do some deburring and I think we'll be fine. All right, there we go. It didn't take much at all, just a little bit of filing. Okay, I like it. And the best part, almost no wiggle at all. And then I did weld on a nut for a lockdown. Oh man, rock solid with that. All right. We did get a little bit of slight warpage in our plate from the weld. But luckily the vise, there's nothing underneath that makes contact, just the outer. So it actually still sits really nice. Doesn't rock at all. So yeah, we're just gonna go with it. All right. Let me do a little treatment on this and then we'll get it mounted up. All right, this is probably overkill, but I don't really want to paint this. And I need to use up this cold blue anyways. This is the gel formula. Now let's see what happens. Now we'll just start wiping it down with some light oil. Okay, did a little bit off camera. It's looking halfway decent. If you really want a nice blue finish, you really gotta get everything perfect before you do it. Because it doesn't cover anything, it just basically changes the color. So any defects are gonna show. Alright. I think we're ready to mount the vise on it. There's what I was using, just Oxbow Blue from Brownells and Rem oil. You can use any kind of oil. This was just what was convenient. Okay, so I'm happy with the way it looks. I didn't want to paint it because if you get paint on here, it's going to hang up in the receiver tube, and I think it looks better this way. Let's get the vise mounted on it. Well, there it is in all its glory, and it's pretty rigid for a receiver mount. Now, you're going to get some movement no matter what, but yeah, I'm happy with it. I'll show you the other side. There's the other side. This is probably the last time you'll ever see it this clean. The rotation lock bolt, unscrew it, and goes right in there for storage. And guys, let me tell you, that is like night and day after cleaning up that rough casting and the trunnion track. What a difference. And it locks down much better, much tighter. And of course, we can always drop that in when you really need to lock it down. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Last time you're going to see it this clean, guaranteed. I deliberately left a gap here because I have a piece of plywood goes on here when you're just doing general work, or if you're working on something large and you need the clearance for it to slide under. That was my theory on that. All right, well, I'm happy to have this vise back in operation and a mounting system for the new welding table. That's really a handy thing to have on your welding bench or just workbench. Yeah, I got another project. You probably saw a little sneak preview shot here and there sitting behind me on the bench here, so we'll get that going here pretty quick. Don't forget, Bar Z Summer Bash is coming up June 27th and 28th. We're planning on being there, so hopefully we'll see you, some of you, there at the bash. All right, so until next time, we'll catch you on the next video. All right, thanks guys. See ya.